I stood in the corner of our living room, watching strangers turn my house into a celebration for someone else. Balloons floated near the ceiling. Gold ribbons hung from the walls. A giant banner read, "Happy Birthday, Jason." My mother rushed past me carrying a tray of glasses. "Careful with those decorations," she shouted toward the caterers. "Jason's party has to be perfect." I cleared my throat. "Mom." She didn't even slow down. "Mom," I said again. "What is it, Daniel?" She replied quickly, barely glancing at me. "Do you need help with anything?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Just stay out of the way for now. The guests will arrive soon." Then she hurried toward the kitchen again. I looked around the room. No one noticed me. Not the caterers. Not the decorators. Not even my own mother. Today was my birthday too. Jason and I were born on the same day. Same hospital. Same hour. 10 minutes apart. But somehow every year felt like it belonged only to him. Footsteps echoed behind me. Jason walked into the room wearing a new suit, adjusting his cufflinks. "Whoa," he said, looking around. "Mom really went all out this year." I shrugged. "Looks like it." He grinned. "You jealous?" "No," I said quietly. Jason laughed. "Relax, I'm joking." He clapped me on the shoulder. "Hey, at least you get free food." I forced a smile. "Yeah, lucky me." My mother rushed back into the room again. "Oh, Jason," she said excitedly. "You look amazing." Jason spread his arms dramatically. "Do I look like the birthday king yet?" "You look perfect," she said proudly. Then she turned toward me. "Daniel, can you move those chairs? They're blocking the cake table." "Sure," I said. She was already walking away again. Jason leaned closer to me and whispered, "Don't look so serious, man. It's just a party." "Yeah," I said. "Just a party." The doorbell rang. Guests began pouring into the house. "Jason," someone shouted. "Happy birthday." Jason laughed and walked toward them. "Thanks. Come in." A tall man handed him a wrapped box. "This is for you," he said. Jason shook it. "Feels expensive." The man laughed. "You deserve it." I stood nearby while more guests arrived. "Happy birthday, Jason." "Congratulations, Jason." "Where's the birthday boy?" "Jason. Jason. Jason." Every voice said his name. A woman holding a gift box looked at me. "Excuse me," she said. "Where can I put Jason's present?" I pointed at the table. "Right there." "Thank you," she said, already walking away. Emily's voice suddenly came from the doorway. "Daniel." I turned quickly. "Emily." She stepped inside, looking around the decorated room. "Wow," she said. "This is huge." "Yeah." She walked closer to me and studied my face. "Why are you standing in the corner like a ghost?" "I'm supervising the balloons," I joked. She crossed her arms. "Daniel." "I'm fine." She lowered her voice. "Did they forget again?" I looked toward the cake table. The cake was massive. 3 layers. Golden candles. And the words "Happy Birthday, Jason" written across the top. I laughed softly. "Not technically," I said. "They remembered his." Emily shook her head slowly. "That's not funny." "It's normal," I replied. Jason suddenly grabbed a microphone from the DJ table. "Everyone," he called loudly. The room grew quiet. "Come gather around. It's time for the toast." People moved toward the center of the room. Emily stayed beside me. "Do you want to leave?" she whispered. "Not yet," I said. My mother walked beside Jason, holding a glass of champagne. She tapped the microphone. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she announced proudly. The room filled with smiles and applause. She looked at Jason like he was the center of the universe. "My son Jason has always been special," she continued. Jason laughed modestly. "Oh, come on, Mom." "No," she insisted. "It's true." She raised her glass. "Jason is the son who made our family proud." The room exploded with applause. "Cheers. Happy birthday." Glasses clinked. Laughter filled the air. I stood perfectly still. Emily whispered, "Daniel." I forced a smile. "It's fine." Jason looked around the room proudly. "Thanks, everyone." Someone shouted, "Speech." Jason laughed. Later." My mother leaned toward him. "Make a wish first." Jason closed his eyes dramatically. Everyone counted down. 3, 2, 1. Jason blew out the candles. Cheers erupted again. I clapped slowly with everyone else. Because what else could I do? Emily looked at me carefully. "You're smiling," she said softly. "I know. But your eyes." I looked around the room again. Everyone was laughing. Everyone was celebrating. Accept me. I lowered my voice. Emily. Yeah. Do you ever feel like you're invisible? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she grabbed my hand gently. I see you, she said quietly. I swallowed hard. Across the room, Jason raised his glass again. To another great year, he shouted. Everyone cheered. I smiled with them. But inside me, something finally broke. Jason's laughter echoed across the room while people gathered around him. I stayed near the wall, holding a glass of soda I never planned to drink. Emily nudged my arm gently. You're drifting again, she said. Am I? Yeah. Your eyes do that thing when you're remembering stuff. I sighed quietly. Just old memories. About tonight? No, I said. About every other birthday. Emily tilted her head. What do you mean? I watched Jason opening another expensive gift. Growing up, I said slowly, Jason always got everything first. Emily folded her arms. Like what? Everything. She waited. I continued. Best school. Best room. Best gifts. Best attention. And you? She asked softly. I shrugged. I got silence. Emily frowned. That's not true. It is, I said quietly. You just weren't there every time. Jason suddenly shouted across the room. Mom, look at this watch. My mother hurried over. Oh, Jason, that's beautiful. Cost a fortune, Jason laughed. You deserve it, she replied proudly. Emily glanced at me. See, I said quietly. She looked annoyed. Your mom didn't even look at you. She rarely does. Emily lowered her voice. Tell me something honestly. What? Was it always like this? I nodded slowly. Yeah. She leaned against the wall beside me. Start talking. I exhaled. You remember 9th grade? The math competition? She asked. Yeah. Emily's eyes lit up. You won first place. Exactly. And nothing. She blinked. What do you mean nothing? I laughed softly. I came home with the trophy. I walked into the kitchen and said, Mom, I won the regional math competition. Emily leaned closer. What did she say? I imitated my mother's distracted voice. That's nice, Daniel. Emily stared at me. That's it. That's it. What about your dad? He was watching Jason's football highlights. Emily shook her head. That's messed up. I continued quietly. 2 weeks later, Jason scored 1 goal in a school game. And the house turned into a party. Emily rubbed her forehead. You're serious? Oh yeah, I said. Mom invited neighbors. Dad bought a huge cake. What did it say? She asked. Future champion Jason Carter. Emily looked angry now. That's ridiculous. I shrugged again. It was normal for me. Jason suddenly walked past us, laughing loudly with 2 guests. Best birthday ever, he shouted. One of the guests replied, You deserve it, man. Jason grinned. I know. Emily muttered under her breath. Unbelievable. I looked at her. Don't start a war tonight. I'm not, she said. But someone should. She studied my face again. You really got used to this? I had to. How? I thought for a moment. I stopped expecting things. That sounds sad. It's peaceful, I said. Emily didn't seem convinced. You shouldn't have to disappear just to survive your own family. I looked around the room. Guests were laughing. Music was playing. Jason stood in the center like a celebrity. I whispered, That's the only role they ever gave me. Emily shook her head. You're not a shadow. I smiled weakly. In this house, I am. The DJ changed the music. Jason suddenly grabbed a microphone again. All right, everyone, he shouted. The room quieted instantly. Emily sighed. Here we go. Jason tapped the mic. I've got a little announcement. People gathered closer. Someone shouted, Speech. Jason laughed. Not exactly. My mother stepped beside him again. Everyone come closer, she said. Jason wants to share something. Emily leaned toward me. You okay? I'll survive. Jason scanned the room. Then his eyes landed on me. He smirked. That look made my stomach tighten. Jason raised the microphone. You know, he began casually, growing up in this family was interesting. Guests chuckled politely. He pointed at me. Because I had to share a birthday with this guy. Some people laughed softly. Emily whispered, That already sounds bad. I forced a small smile. Jason continued. Daniel and I were born the same day. Someone said, Really? Jason nodded dramatically. Yep. Same day. Same house. Same parents. More laughter. Then he added casually. But somehow we turned out very different. The room grew quieter. I felt Emily's hand grip my sleeve. Jason tilted his head toward me. "Don't worry, Daniel," he said loudly. "This story is about you too." The way he said it made my chest tighten. Emily whispered, "I don't like that tone." Neither did I. Jason raised the microphone again. "Let me tell you all a funny story about my brother." My stomach dropped, because I knew Jason, and whatever he was about to say was not going to be funny for me. Jason lifted the microphone and smiled like a comedian about to start a show. "All right," he said. "Since we're celebrating tonight, I thought I'd share a few childhood memories." People laughed lightly. Someone shouted, "Go for it." Jason pointed toward me. "You all know Daniel, right? My brother." A few guests glanced at me and nodded politely. Jason continued. "Daniel and I were born on the same day. Same parents. Same house." He paused dramatically. "But somehow, we turned out completely different." A few people chuckled. Emily whispered beside me, "This already feels wrong." I forced a small smile. Jason continued. "When we were kids, our teachers used to compare us all the time." He laughed. "Jason is outgoing. Jason is confident. Jason is a leader." Guests nodded approvingly. Then Jason tilted his head toward me. "And Daniel?" He paused again. "Well." The room waited. Jason shrugged. Daniel was quiet. Some people laughed politely. I looked down at the floor. Jason kept talking. "You know the type. The kid who sits in the corner and barely says a word." A man near the table laughed louder. Jason continued. "Seriously, growing up with Daniel was like having a ghost in the house." More laughter. Emily muttered, "This isn't funny." I didn't respond. Jason paced slowly while holding the microphone. One time my dad asked Daniel what he wanted to be when he grew up. He grinned. "You know what Daniel said?" Someone shouted. "What?" Jason shrugged dramatically. "Nothing." The crowd laughed again. "He literally stood there and said nothing," Jason said. "Just stared at the floor." I felt my chest tighten. Jason continued. "My dad looked at me and said, 'Well, at least one of my sons knows how to speak.'" The laughter grew louder. Emily suddenly raised her voice. "Jason, that's enough." The room grew quiet. Jason looked surprised. "Oh, come on, Emily," he said. "I'm just telling stories." She crossed her arms. "You're humiliating him." Jason tilted his head. "Relax. Daniel isn't offended." He pointed at me. "Right, Daniel?" Everyone looked at me. I forced a smile again. "I'm fine." Emily looked at me like she wanted to argue. Jason grinned. "See? Daniel gets it." Then he raised the microphone again. "Honestly, Daniel is a great brother." A few guests nodded. Jason added casually. "He proves something important, though." The room leaned in. Jason lifted his glass. "Not everyone in this family can be special." The room exploded with laughter. Someone clapped. Another guest whistled. My face burned. I stared at the floor. Emily suddenly stepped forward. "Stop it," she said sharply. Jason blinked. "What?" "Stop humiliating him." Jason laughed awkwardly. "Emily, it's a joke." "It's not a joke." My mother suddenly spoke. "Emily, please." Emily turned toward her. "What?" My mother sighed. "Don't ruin the mood." Emily stared at her in disbelief. "Ruin the mood?" "Yes," my mother said calmly. "Jason is just entertaining the guests." Emily pointed at me. "He's humiliating your son." My mother's expression hardened. "Daniel doesn't seem bothered." Emily looked at me again. "Daniel." I stayed silent, because something strange was happening inside me. The anger I expected to feel wasn't there. Instead, I felt empty. Jason cleared his throat awkwardly. "All right," he said. "Let's not make this dramatic." He lifted his glass again. "To family." People cheered. Glasses clinked. Music started playing again. The party continued, like nothing had happened. Emily walked back to me. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "It's fine," I said quietly. "No, it's not." I looked around the room. Jason was laughing with guests again. My mother stood proudly beside him. No one looked at me. Not even once. Emily grabbed my arm. "Let's leave," she said. I shook my head. "No." "Why not?" "Because I just realized something." "What?" I looked toward the front door. "I've been waiting my whole life for this house to notice me." Emily said nothing. I continued quietly. "But tonight, I finally understand something." "What?" she asked. I took a slow breath. "This house never will." Emily watched my face carefully. "Daniel." I stepped away from the wall. Then I started walking toward the door. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Out." Do you want me to come? I paused. Then I shook my head. No. She looked worried. Are you sure? Yes. I opened the door. Behind me, the party continued. Music. Laughter. Jason's voice. My mother's proud smile. None of it followed me outside. The cold night air hit my face. For the first time all evening, I could breathe. I walked down the driveway slowly. No one called my name. No one noticed I was gone. I stopped near the gate and looked back at the house. Lights filled every window. Celebration. Joy. A birthday party. Just not mine. I whispered quietly to myself. That was the last one. Because in that moment I made a promise. A silent promise. I would never live in Jason's shadow again. 3 weeks after the party, my life looked completely different. I lived in a small apartment across town. No giant house. No family noise. Just quiet walls and a cheap coffee maker. Emily sat at my kitchen table one evening. So, she said, stirring her coffee, how does freedom feel? I leaned against the counter. Strange. Strange good or strange bad? Both. She looked around the apartment. You really moved out fast. I had to. Did your mom call? Once. And she asked if I left because of Jason's joke. Emily raised an eyebrow. What did you say? I said yes. And she said I was overreacting. Emily shook her head slowly. Of course she did. I sat across from her. What about Jason? She asked. He texted. What did he say? I pulled out my phone and read it. Hope you're not still being dramatic. Emily rolled her eyes. Unbelievable. I shrugged. It's normal for him. Emily studied my face carefully. You don't look angry. I'm not. Then what are you? I thought for a moment. Done. Emily nodded slowly. I think that's healthier than anger. My phone suddenly buzzed on the table. Emily glanced at the screen. Unknown number. I answered. Hello. A calm older voice spoke. Hello. Is this Daniel Carter? Yes. My name is Harold Whitman. I frowned. Okay. I was your father's attorney. I straightened slightly. My father's lawyer? Yes. What about him? There's something important we need to discuss. I hesitated. My father died last year. I'm aware, he said gently. Then what is this about? It concerns a document he finalized shortly before his death. What document? A will. Emily looked at me curiously. I continued. My father already had a will. Yes, Mr. Whitman said calmly. But he updated it. When? 3 months before he passed away. My chest tightened slightly. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to see it. Why me? There was a brief pause. Because it involves you directly. Emily mouthed. What is it? I shook my head. When can we meet? I asked. Tomorrow afternoon. Where? My office downtown. All right, I said quietly. I'll come. The call ended. Emily leaned forward immediately. What was that? My dad's lawyer. Her eyebrows rose. Why? He says my father updated his will. She blinked. And he wants me to see it. Emily looked confused. Why only you? I don't know. The next afternoon I sat in a quiet office across from a gray-haired man in a dark suit. Daniel Carter, he said warmly. Thank you for coming. You're Mr. Whitman? Yes. His office smelled like old paper and polished wood. I sat down slowly. What is this about? He folded his hands. Your father trusted me with something important. Okay. He opened a drawer and removed a sealed envelope. This was written by your father. My stomach tightened. He wrote me a letter? Yes. When? Shortly before he passed. Mr. Whitman placed the envelope on the desk between us. He asked me to give it to you personally. I stared at it. My father and I hadn't spoken much during his life. Our conversations were always short, distant. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a handwritten letter. My hands trembled slightly as I read. Daniel, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I swallowed. I know I was never the father you deserved. My chest tightened. There are many things I should have said to you, but I waited too long. I whispered softly, why now? Mr. Whitman remained silent. I kept reading. You were always stronger than you realized. And I'm sorry I didn't protect you more. My vision blurred slightly. There is something I've kept hidden from your mother and Jason. I looked up briefly. What does that mean? Mr. Whitman simply nodded. Keep reading. I looked back down. I knew one day you would need it. And I knew you were the only one I could trust with it. My hands felt colder. I reached the final line. Everything I built was meant for you. I slowly lowered the letter. What does that mean? Mr. Whitman opened a folder on his desk. Your father made a decision before his death. What decision? He changed his will. I leaned forward slightly. And Mr. Whitman looked directly at me. The Carter family company now belongs to you. I stared at him. What? And the house? My voice came out barely above a whisper. The house too? Yes. I shook my head slowly. That can't be right. It is. What about my mother? She is not listed as the primary inheritor. And Jason? Mr. Whitman closed the folder calmly. Neither of them are. I sat back in the chair, stunned. You're saying my father left everything to me? Yes. The room felt strangely quiet. But why? Mr. Whitman slid the legal document across the desk. Because your father believed you were the only one who could protect it. I stared at the signature at the bottom. My father's handwriting. Real. Final. Jason's voice echoed in my mind. Not everyone in this family can be special. I exhaled slowly. Then I looked at Mr. Whitman again. Does my family know about this? He shook his head. No. When will they? He folded his hands calmly. That depends on you. 2 days after my meeting with Mr. Whitman, everything exploded. My phone rang early that morning. Daniel, Mr. Whitman said urgently. Yes. You should come to my office. Why? Your family is here. I sighed. Already? Yes. I grabbed my jacket. I'll be there in 20 minutes. When I arrived, I heard Jason's voice before I even opened the door. This is ridiculous, he shouted. I stepped inside the office. Jason turned immediately. There he is. My mother stood beside him with her arms crossed. Daniel, she said coldly, what is going on? Mr. Whitman sat calmly behind his desk. Please sit down, he said. Jason slammed his hand on the desk. No. I want answers. My mother pointed at me. You told him lies, didn't you? I blinked. What? You manipulated him, she continued. You convinced him to change the will. I stared at her. Mom, Dad died last year. Jason scoffed. Yeah, and suddenly the quiet brother inherits everything? Mr. Whitman spoke calmly. The will was signed and verified before your father passed away. Jason shook his head. That's impossible. It is documented and legally binding, Mr. Whitman replied. Jason looked at me again. You did something. I didn't. Don't play innocent, he snapped. My mother leaned forward. This house belongs to our family. It still does, Mr. Whitman said calmly. But legally, the ownership has transferred. To Daniel. The room went silent. Jason laughed bitterly. You're joking. Mr. Whitman slid the documents across the desk. You may read them. Jason grabbed the papers. He scanned them quickly. His expression slowly changed. What the hell? My mother grabbed the papers from him. This can't be real. It is, Mr. Whitman replied. She looked at me like I had betrayed her. You knew about this? I just found out yesterday. Jason stared at me. You're lying. I'm not. Jason stepped closer. You expect me to believe Dad left everything to you? Yes. Why? I didn't answer. Jason slammed the papers down. This is a mistake. Mr. Whitman spoke calmly again. The documents were verified by 2 witnesses and filed legally. My mother's voice became sharp. We will contest this. You are free to try, Mr. Whitman said. But the court will likely uphold the will. Jason paced across the room. This is insane. Then he pointed at me again. You think this makes you important now? I met his eyes. I didn't ask for it. That doesn't matter. My mother stepped closer to me. You need to fix this. Fix what? You transfer the ownership back to the family. I frowned slightly. I am the family. Her expression hardened. Don't be disrespectful. Jason laughed. This is hilarious. What is? I asked. You, he said, trying to act powerful. Mr. Whitman interrupted. Mr. Carter, your brother legally owns the company now. Jason's jaw tightened. Then he better learn fast. Learn what? How the real world works. He turned toward the door. Let's go, Mom. My mother stopped at the doorway and looked at me again. You've made a terrible mistake. Then they left. The office became quiet. Mr. Whitman looked at me. Are you all right? I exhaled slowly. I think so. You handled that well. I've had practice, I said quietly. Later that evening, Emily sat beside me at my apartment table. You're serious? She said. Yes. You own the entire company now. That's what the documents say. Emily stared at me. Daniel, that's huge. I know. She leaned forward. So what happens next? I review everything. What everything? The company records. Emily nodded. Good idea. 2 days later, we sat in a quiet office reviewing files. Emily flipped through financial statements. Daniel. What? This doesn't look right. I leaned closer. What do you mean? She pointed at the numbers. These withdrawals. From where? The company accounts. How much? She looked again. A lot. My stomach tightened. Who authorized them? Emily scanned the document. Then she looked up at me slowly. Jason. I stared at her. Are you sure? Yes. She turned another page. There's more. How much total? Emily grabbed a calculator. She typed numbers quickly. Then she looked up. Daniel, this is hundreds of thousands. My chest tightened. He took that from the company? Yes. And nobody noticed? Emily pointed at the approval signatures. He approved them himself. I leaned back in the chair. Unbelievable. Emily looked at me carefully. What are you going to do? I don't know. The next morning, the board members requested a meeting. One of them spoke first. Daniel, we've discovered unusual transactions. I've seen them. Do you know who authorized them? Yes. The room went quiet. Jason Carter, I said. One of the board members sighed. That explains a lot. Another spoke carefully. This is a serious issue. I know. What action will you take? I paused. For years, Jason controlled everything. He had the attention, the respect, the power. But now the room was looking at me, waiting for my decision. Emily whispered beside me. This is your moment. I took a slow breath. And for the first time in my life, I realized something powerful. The invisible brother was invisible no longer. Now I was the one in control. 3 days after the board meeting, I received another unexpected call. Daniel, a deep voice said. Yes. This is Victor. I straightened slightly. Uncle Victor? Yeah. I hadn't spoken to him in years. What's going on? I asked. I heard about the company. News traveled fast. I figured you might. He paused. We need to talk. About Jason? Yes. Where? Dinner tonight. I hesitated. All right. That evening I sat across from him in a quiet restaurant. He looked older than I remembered, but his eyes were sharp. You look like your father, he said. I've heard that before. The waiter brought water. Victor leaned forward. So, you own the company now. That's what the documents say. He nodded slowly. Your father planned that. I figured. No, he said quietly. You didn't. I frowned. What do you mean? Victor folded his hands. You think your father changed the will randomly? I assumed he had reasons. He did. What kind? Victor sighed. Jason. My stomach tightened. What about him? Your father discovered something years ago. Something what? Illegal deals. I blinked. What? Victor continued calmly. Jason started making financial arrangements with some very questionable people. Loans. Not exactly. Then what? Victor leaned closer. Money laundering. I stared at him. That's impossible. Your father thought the same thing. When did he find out? About 4 years ago. My mind raced. Why didn't he stop him? He tried. And, Victor shook his head. Your mother. What about her? She refused to believe Jason could do anything wrong. That sounded painfully familiar. Victor continued. Every time your father tried to confront him, your mother defended Jason. So Dad gave up? Not exactly. What did he do? Victor looked at me carefully. He started preparing you. I laughed quietly. Preparing me? For what? For this. He gestured toward me. You running the company. I shook my head. That doesn't make sense. It does to him. But he barely talked to me. Victor sighed. Your father wasn't good with emotions. I noticed. But he watched you. Watched me. Yes. How? Your grades. Your work ethic. The way you handled problems. I looked down at the table. He never said anything. He didn't need to. Victor leaned back slightly. He told me once, Daniel is the one who thinks before he acts. My chest tightened slightly. He said that. Yes. And Jason? Victor snorted quietly. He said Jason believed the world owed him success. That sounded accurate. I asked quietly. So he changed the will because of Jason's deals? Partly. What's the other part? Victor looked straight at me. Because he believed in you. The words felt strange. No one in my family had ever said that before. Victor reached into his jacket. There's something else. He placed a folder on the table. What's this? Proof. Proof of what? Jason's fraud. I opened the folder slowly. Inside were bank transfers, contracts, and account records. This is serious. Victor nodded. If the authorities see this, Jason is finished. I looked up. Why give it to me? Because the company belongs to you now. And so the decision belongs to you. I flipped through another page. The evidence was overwhelming. Hundreds of thousands. Maybe more. Victor watched me quietly. You have two options. What are they? Option 1, he said calmly. You turn this over to the authorities. And Jason goes to prison. Possibly. I swallowed. And option 2? You walk away. Just ignore it. Let him deal with his own mistakes. I stared at the documents again. Jason's voice echoed in my mind. Not everyone in this family can be special. Victor spoke again. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about my father. What about him? He knew all this. Yes. And he still didn't destroy Jason. Victor nodded slowly. That's true. Why? Because he hoped Jason would change. I closed the folder. He didn't. No, Victor said quietly. He didn't. The waiter brought dinner, but neither of us touched it. Victor studied my face. You're not angry enough. I was angry before. And now? I took a slow breath. Now I'm tired. Tired of what? Being part of their war. Victor nodded slowly. That's understandable. I looked at the folder one last time. Everything I needed was inside. Proof. Power. Control. Victor spoke quietly. So what will you do? I didn't answer immediately. Because the truth was simple. For the first time in my life, the choice was mine. 1 year later, the same date appeared on my phone calendar. My birthday. I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I laughed quietly. Emily noticed. What? She asked from across the table. Nothing, I said. Daniel. I smiled. It's strange. What is? A year ago today, everything broke. Emily nodded slowly. Yeah, that party. I leaned back in my chair. I remember standing in the corner while Jason told those jokes. Emily shook her head. They weren't jokes. No, I said. They weren't. The restaurant around us was quiet and warm. No balloons. No giant banners. Just a few friends sitting together. Emily tapped the table lightly. So how does it feel? What? Your first real birthday. I looked at her. This is my first. She laughed. Yes. Technically I had birthdays before. No, she said firmly. You had Jason's birthdays. I couldn't argue with that. Across the table, my friend Mark raised his glass. Speech time. I groaned. Please don't. He grinned. Too late. Emily laughed. Relax. It's a friendly crowd. Mark pointed at me. Come on, Daniel. 1 sentence. I sighed. Fine. Everyone looked at me. I raised my glass slightly. Thank you all for being here. Mark nodded approvingly. That was short. I warned you. Emily suddenly stood up. Okay, now my turn. I frowned. Your turn for what? She disappeared toward the counter. Mark leaned closer. You know she's been planning something. What do you mean? You'll see. Emily returned carrying a small cake. I blinked. You didn't have to do that. She placed it in front of me. Yes, I did. The cake was simple. Chocolate frosting. 1 candle. No giant decorations. Just 3 words written in white icing. Happy birthday, Daniel. I stared at it. Emily lit the candle. Go ahead. What? Make a wish. I hesitated. I haven't done this in years. That's exactly why you should. Mark started clapping slowly. Speech after the wish. Stop adding rules, I said. Emily smiled softly. Close your eyes. I looked at the candle flame. It flickered quietly. For a moment, I remembered the giant cake from last year. 3 layers. Gold candles. Jason's name written across it. I looked around the table now. Emily. Mark. 2 other friends from work. Everyone smiling. Everyone looking at me. I whispered. This feels strange. Emily asked gently. Good strange. Yes. I closed my eyes. Then I blew out the candle. Everyone cheered. Mark clapped. Finally. Emily laughed. How was that? I looked at the cake again. Different. How? No one forgot my name. Emily sat beside me again. That's a pretty low bar. Maybe, I said. But it matters. Mark cut the cake. All right, birthday boy gets the first piece. He handed me a plate. I took a bite. Emily watched my reaction. Well, it's good. She smiled proudly. Of course it is. A moment passed. Then Emily spoke quietly. Your mother called again last week. I nodded. I know. You never answered. No. Mark glanced between us. That situation's still bad. I shrugged slightly. Some things don't fix themselves. Emily spoke gently. She sounded desperate. I stared at my plate. I spent 25 years waiting for her to notice me. Emily didn't interrupt. I continued quietly. 1 year of silence isn't that long. Mark cleared his throat. What about Jason? I looked up. His trial ended 2 months ago. Yeah, Mark said. I read about that. Emily asked softly. Do you regret reporting the evidence? I thought for a moment. No. Why not? Because it wasn't revenge. What was it? Truth. Mark nodded slowly. Fair point. The table grew quiet. Emily studied my face again. You're different now. How? Calmer. Maybe. Stronger, she added. I laughed lightly. That sounds dramatic. It's true. I leaned back and looked around the restaurant. People chatting. Waiters walking by. Normal life. A year ago, I thought my family defined everything about me. My value. My place. My worth. But sitting here tonight, something felt clear. Emily spoke again. Where did you go just now? What do you mean? You had that thinking face. I smiled. I realized something. What? I looked at the small cake again. At my name written clearly. At the friends sitting around me. For years I believed something that wasn't true. I believed I was invisible. But the truth was much simpler. I wasn't invisible. I was just surrounded by people who refused to see me. Emily tilted her head. Daniel. Yes. You're smiling again. I nodded slowly. Because I finally understand something. What? I looked at the candle smoke fading into the air. My life doesn't belong to them anymore. Emily raised her glass. To Daniel. Everyone joined her. To Daniel. For the first time in my life. The birthday finally belonged to me.